Thou shalt cultivate a long-term perspective. That's the 10th commandment of the 10 commandments of internet advertising. And it is a very important one. Now, you could argue all of the commandments are very important. That's why they've been distilled down to 10 commandments. However, let's think about this one here. So, the long-term perspective for advertising is important. Now, why is this important? You could argue that, well, look, I am just going to try a platform. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And if it cash flows right now, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm going to just abandon it. In fact, I'm going to basically do no marketing unless I get an immediate return on my investment. Now, that is okay. If that's how you want to run your business, that's not a problem. You do you. But I prefer that rather than having my clients come to me with a real stretch budget that's like, we are all in on this thing. We're going to spend every last bit of cash that we possibly can over the next 3 months. And if it doesn't work, boom, either we're going out of business or we're shutting down our marketing entirely or whatever. I prefer, because marketing's effectiveness to some extent can grow over time, I much prefer that you set a budget that you're comfortable with, that you can spend month in and month out, whether your campaign is absolutely rocking and rolling, or whether your campaign is feeling a little sluggish. You'll have months sometimes, like some businesses are a little seasonal, sometimes in the winter or around the holidays, they're not quite as strong, or whatever the case. I much prefer that we set a realistic budget that you can always spend on your advertising. And then if your advertising takes off like a rocket and it's working great, you want to add some more budget to it, then awesome. But let's set a realistic budget right out of the gate that you can sustain. The way I look at marketing and advertising is I don't want this to be just a one-off little experiment for your company. I want your company to have a regular routine, an online presence, if you will, a consistent presence online, so when customers are looking for your business, you're really easy to find. And so, running ads on Google and on Meta are some of the easiest, most effective, quickest ways to get in front of customers. And while I think there are many other good marketing techniques and tactics to use, those are still two of the classic rock solid performers for a lot of local businesses. And so take a long view. Think about if the campaign was moderately successful, or it was break even, or something like that. How much could I spend? How much would I want to spend a month to gradually grow my business over time? And then if your campaign performs better than you expected, and then you can always increase that budget. But start with something sustainable, something that you can, you're comfortable with, rather than overextending yourself and going crazy with it. Is generally my advice. Now, within that, there's still a spectrum of how aggressive that you want to be. And it's interesting to see how different some of my clients are when it comes to this. Some of my clients are fairly conservative. They're, when you look at their gross revenue compared to what they spend on marketing, their marketing budget is really quite small. And you could either say, depending on your viewpoint, either you could say that's impressively efficient or that's short-sighted. But it's their style, and that's cool. And then you've got other customers or other clients of mine, maybe one in particular, who, he's actively trying to really grow his company right now. And he's adding staff, and he wants to be able to support their families. And he's got, sort of aggressive revenue targets that he's trying to hit. And so for him, pretty much anytime I say, hey, I think you probably could spend some more money on this platform profitably, or I would recommend trying this other platform, he's always pretty much always good to go. and he's good to give it a try. And so he's got a much more aggressive posture. So the percentage that he spends on his marketing relative to some of these other companies is really high. But he's okay with that because he's trying to grow his company, and he's okay with making that investment. So there's not a one size fits all here in terms of how much you should spend on marketing. But for me, I want the results that you're getting from your marketing, I want it to be building your company over the long term. So the prospects that are coming through the pipeline, those should be ones that benefit you for the long term, or it should be on a platform where you're visible and that benefits you. So whatever the case is, ideally it should snowball, and it should become more and more efficient and more effective over time, and grow, whether it's through getting more customers that create referrals, or whether it's creating an email list that you can send an email to every month. Whatever the case, I like to see your marketing be sustainable in the short term and be building something bigger over the long term. That's the ideal, and that's what I would encourage my customers to go for.